So we do. We are live.
Wonderful. Hello, buongiorno. I've just learned. Guten Tag, good afternoon. Hi, Paolo.
Hi, Silvia. Buongiorno, everybody in every language. So thanks for having me today.
Let's wait maybe a little bit further for more to join. So stay with us, maybe just 30 seconds from now. Like a countdown, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah,
Perfect.
this is tea time. That's tea time. So people maybe are enjoying their tea right now.
Oh, yeah. Or espresso in your case,
Oh yes,
probably.
it's always espresso time in Italy. So, round the clock.
That's right. So let's start our 5 o'clock tea session now, right?
Right, that's lovely. Great idea.
Wonderful. So, everyone, welcome to the ECXO executive sessions, delving into digital conversations for business survival or irrelevance, featuring Paolo Fabrizio. My name is Sylvia Lohr. I'm an ECXO ambassador and a principal product marketing manager at Microsoft, and I'm passionate about customer experience and digital conversations. So, I'm very happy facilitating our conversation today. What is the ECXO? Let me start with that. The European Customer Experience Organization is an independent, non-profit organization aiming to educate European and also global practitioners and corporates about customer experience and, for sure, related subjects. So, having said that, let's start talking about today's presentation and session. Starting with you, Paolo. Who are you? Paolo, as far as I know, is passionate about digital customer service. In your role as consultant, trainer, and speaker, you are supporting companies to also incorporate customer culture and people skilling to the broadened digital customer conversation as a business driver. Paolo, you are living in Milan, Italy. You love, which is no surprise to me, people, music, and rugby. Your recent book, The Power of Digital Conversations, is a great hands on guide and workbook sharing best practices, tips, and hints for digital customer experience, such as, which is great for today, how to manage video calls before, during, and after session. So, to everyone out there, as Paolo starts his session, feel free to post your questions or comments on the right side of the chat. And then, since this should be a live session, Paolo will reply directly during the presentation. But, Paolo, before we start your presentation, quick question for you. In your book, The Power of Digital Conversations, you are also addressing the recent CX changes caused by artificial intelligence. So, which you can imagine is pretty appealing to me coming from Microsoft. So you mentioned proactive notifications and self-service solutions. Now, following your experience and knowledge of the past years, which industry do you see as being most mature in having AE deployed for CX already?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this question, Silvia, for this $1 million question, and welcome to all attendees, okay, all over the world. Well, this is a pretty interesting question because we're talking about something which is hype, okay? Everybody's talking about AI. I would say 110% of people in customer service, especially, are talking about AI because before talking about industries, I just want to talk about organizations. And one of the most impacted areas and departments is, customer service. And that's why, because coming to your question, it's the fact that digital customer service, okay, having integrated earlier digital conversational channels such as messaging, WhatsApp, social media, live chat, and others, have, of course, paved the way for many organizations to integrate many forms of artificial intelligence, the first chatbots. So if you're familiar with the word of customer service, if you're a customer service or customer care or customer experience manager, you remember that 4 or 5 years ago, the hype was chatbot, chatbot, chatbot. Every conference worldwide, okay, the hype was on chatbot. Today, instead, is, I would say, the upgrade. The upgrade is introducing generative AI into processes, into departments, into customer service, into digital customer service. So But saying that, provided that there is no specific industry at the moment that's focusing on this generative AI. There are many companies that belong to many different industries, but I can say from my consulting standpoint that the more advanced one, regardless their industry or the market they're in, are those who have did their homeworks in the last few years. And when I say last few years, I refer from the pandemic onwards. So those who have updated all their processes, they are improved their internal processes, procedures, and KPIs whilst introducing digital channels. And of course, those who have evolved their internal customer culture beyond the boundaries of the customer service department are now in the best position to use generative AI or AI in the best way possible. Because now we are in a very particular era, because there are big investments in many companies, especially here in Europe, in 2 or 3 long years. So we're talking about huge investments. But at the same time, how to use AI, how to use generative AI is the very much important question, because many customer service directors and managers need to decide what impact do they want to have in terms of tasks. So what Gen AI should do, what people should do, what kind of skills the customer service managers or staff need to learn. So it's a sort of a revolution going on. But I don't want to, provide you with a very, very long questions. I just want to give you some tips and insights, and also stimulating the conversation, because as you correctly said, Silvia, this is not a webinar, this is not a frontal webinar, this is a direct conversation. That's why you did very well encouraging everybody jumping in, chiming in, and sending over the questions, and I'm very looking forward to responding them.
Thank you very much, Paolo. So I think let's start now, right?
Yeah, we already started, and I want to start to, link this conversation to something that's, directly or indirectly related to digital customer service, and of course the use of AI. The fact that there is a struggle for loyalty. Many companies are trying to acquire many new customers, new clients, but at the same time, there's a strong battle to retain them. And one of the issues that I always observe, I would say very, very often observe, is that many companies struggle to retain customers that have acquired 1 year ago, 2 years ago, or maybe a few months back. And the problem is often related, as many stats we've got right here, is that, when the customer, especially a new one, okay, we're talking about new relationships, a new customer who made the effort to switch onto a new company, have the first experiences, customer service experiences that can, of course, not just related to the after sale, but also during the sale. Because when we talk about online or e-commerce, customer service starts before buying the product or the service, and it can also last through ongoing the purchase, and it affects positively or negative the purchase. And the fact that many people still complain about the fact that many companies complain about that. One of the key issues is that when customer service is poor, or when the perception of service, so the perception of the customer experience is considered by customers poor, loyalty tends to fall down. Okay, so the big investments many companies do in terms of course, marketing and other strategies do not pay off, because maybe they try, and of course they get new customers, but after a few months, after a short length of time, those new customers come and go. So that's not good. So, being that said, I want to deep dive to why we're talking about conversations today and why we're talking about digital conversations today. First of all, conversations have always been very important. But now, with the growth of digital support channels that we mentioned a few moments earlier, there's a growth of conversation, of external conversations with the end customers and internal conversations in between departments that can make or break internal relationships with colleagues within your department, with colleagues, and relationships with other departments. I remember a lot of issues that I used to have many years ago when I used to work in companies before being a consultant, that based on emails and based on the perception of emails, the relationship between departments were good or cold, and it changed a lot. And as yes, I received Patricia just written very well. So perception is reality from a customer's standpoint. Yes, Patricia, perception is reality. That's the only reality that counts. And of course, when we talk about perception, we're talking about emotion. And one of the biggest challenges for companies, not just for customer service today, is that how can we strike a balance between KPIs, between omni-channel platforms, between AI and customers' emotion. So if our KPI says we're doing a good job, but our customers sometimes do not agree, that's the very question. And digital conversations, they're not just growing in terms of numbers internally in between departments, because there are companies using Teams or messaging or other channels, and externally, of course, with the end customers, but also the fact that we're living an overload of interactions. So whenever I have conversations with new clients, most of the times they are customer service directors or managers, they complain about the number of incoming emails, they complain about their chats, the team messages. So they say, this is an overload. We got too many messages to deal today. And if directors have this kind of issues, can you imagine managers, supervisor, or frontline customer service support? So that's why we need to rationalize and to make the most of each conversation digital in order to avoid and prevent redundant conversations, because there are many interactions what we could prevent or avoid. And these redundant interactions absorb our time, absorb money, and kill productivity. Okay, regardless of we're talking about internal conversations within our organization or external conversations with the end customers, and regardless we have an in-house and internal customer service team, or we rely on external outsourcers of BPOs. Okay, so that's important. And of course, every digital conversation is like the background behind me, sort of brick, okay, layers of brick. Every conversation can, consolidate what I call the credit trust, because whenever we get a new customer, we do not win a new customer. It takes time to win a customer. We just acquired a new customer who let us have a short time credit trust. And it's up to us, it's up to the companies to confirm that trust, or else if we make some mistakes, or worse, if we don't handle or deal issues in the best way, reassuring the customer, we may end up losing the customer. We end up breaking the conversation. And if we think about that, that's something similar that happens also outside our working, life. So whenever we have a new friend or a new partner, the first period, okay, the trust is thin. Okay, it's up to us to be able to consolidate trust. So that's why, not just in terms of course of productivity, but we need to take care in details of what we read, what we write, and how many interactions do we need to have in order to come to the very important thing we want to communicate or we want to agree with somebody. And that's why I would say, and I would change the mantra, we put the customer at the center, or being customer centric, which I take for granted. I say any healthy organization should be customer centric. That should not be something new in the latest years. But the very step forward is moving from a customer centric approach, which is of course good, to be conversational, to have a conversational approach. So how can we improve all our relationship, internal and external, making the most of conversations? And of course, feel free to jump in like Patricia did with your questions.
I've got a question actually, Paolo, already raised on this first slide. So you were talking about overwhelming and emotions in different channels. So I think this question is regarding that, is asking which digital channel requires the most effort and resources to get managed effectively?
Yes, can you repeat, please? I just lost the part of your question, sorry.
Oh, sure. So the question is, which digital channel requires the most effort and resources to get managed effectively?
Well, of course, from a customer standpoint, there is no, effort. There should not be any effort. From a company standpoint, I want to mention one of the oldest digital customer service channel, which is live chat. Okay, because in terms of ability, in terms of skills, it's like a sort of the fast lane of the motorway, right? Where you try to overcome cars, but you may also be forced or pushed by others who want to overcome you. So you need to be very reactive, to be very quick, but also to be very empathetic, to be proactive. And it's very risky when you drive at a very high speed to get off the trail, get off the motorway. And it's not just a matter of technical effort, because nowadays there are so many, we have a plethora of omni-channel digital platforms where you can integrate live chat, social media, messaging. It's the internal processes. It's how can you help the customer? Are you able to solve the issues in channel, or you just use the digital channel to say, oh, for this kind of question, please call us back or send us an email? So it's about, of course, conversational skills that we're going to deep dive in the next minutes, of course, but also how can you adapt your processes to digital channels? Because to give you an example, I've been working in the last 4 or 5 months to update, to review and upgrade the internal and in customer engagement processes on 2 messaging channels on behalf of a client company, because since they underrated them for some time, they could just solve in channel, in the same digital channels, maybe 10% or 50% of the incoming query, and most of their answers generated frustration to the customer because they just reply, please call us back, please drop us a line at our email address. And having improved the number of contact reason to let people get their information, get their solutions within the channel, have also, valorized the quality of the experience of reusing in the future also for next chances and for next needs the same channel. And it's good. It's good that somebody's coming in. So Joao, welcome to you. And I read now your question, which is, I see a lot of redundancy, especially in internal digital conversations where companies lose efficiency and delay problem solving. Yes, that's true. That's cross-national. It happens everywhere. And I've been working about that, and it's a time management issue. So one of the things that maybe we all have underrated until a few years back is that we thought that adding new channels would have let us save time or make our lives better. But if we just add the number of contact points we risk to multiply the same question, the same topic, the same interactions over digital channels. And that what exactly happens sometimes with the end customers. Okay, for example, when a customer sends over a support message over WhatsApp, and after 3 or 4 hours, if she or he doesn't get any response, he or she lose her patience and start calling and start sending emails and using live chats on other channels and repeat the same question, repeat the same queries, multiplying the same conversation. So it's about, of course, it's from the company standpoint, being organized, having an internal digital omnichannel platform is crucial. And coming back to Joao, statement, many companies need to improve how they deal, not just within the one department, but also in between departments, because there's a lot of work to do to optimize time management and to save time during conversations, regardless we have an online meeting or just exchanging emails. And that, of course, affect the productivity and the quality of the decisions that sometimes are being taken too rapidly without considering all, of course, implications. So I like this point. Thank you, Joao. That's great. So we talk about digital conversations, and one of the things that I still today need to distinguish, okay, is that the fact there's a lot of talk about digital channels, digital customer service. Somebody still wrongly called them social channels, and they mix them up together just like they were all the same, but that's not the same. The customer mix them up, and it's up to us to educate the customers during conversation. But what is also risky is when sometimes within companies the situation is not much clearer, so they mix up social media channels with messaging like WhatsApp. They're not the same. The engagement rules are different. The public scenarios are different. So that's why I just want to emphasize, and I do also in my book, I use this infographic that I created for my book, because, just to give you, if we just examine very rapidly, these 5 main digital customer service cluster channels, we got some of them like the social media and the online reviews that generate public conversation. So does that mean that whenever a customer asks for information or want to, talk about an issue, they do it publicly? So you need to answer them, but you need also to communicate with the spectators, the silent spectators. So you need different skills, and you need also to consider what are the implications of the silent spectators, who can be also potential clients or customers, or potential customers that you lose if you don't respond publicly, or if you respond publicly but not properly. Okay, and you, instead of reducing the distance with potential clients and customers, you add more distance. And then we have got different channels when we generate private conversations. But private conversations are different one another, because we have pretty fast conversations like messaging, but there are very super fast conversations pace that we mentioned like chat. So it's just another different sport between dealing messaging conversation from a customer service standpoint and live chat conversation. I just take one second, because I just saw popping up an incoming question, Silvia, but I just...
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now I can read. This is Piero Semeraro, and from the name, I think is from my country, maybe Italy. Okay, Piero, welcome to you, benvenuto. So Piero asked, how do you suggest to handle new customers? I've got something that's covered by my screen. To start, can you read it for me, Silvia, because I got some...
Sure, very happy to do. So how do you suggest to handle new customers? to start a dedicated program and how to deal with this topic in a customer care group? I mean, how is it possible to keep track and share customer feeling, feedback, emotions in a group so that any agent will be prepared and ready to be ready in the right way? I think especially the last question refers directly back to what you just said, right?
Yeah, that's very actual. Okay, being said that, because in fact, in the next couple of slides, we're going to deep dive into the new skills that customer service people, that frontline people need to develop in order to do the same great job that they have been doing for years over traditional channel such as phone or email. We have to consider email today as a traditional, because it's digital, it's written, but it's totally different compared to these digital channels in terms of not just speed response, but also tone of voice. So, Piero, you mentioned an important trait that needs to be developed and nurtured. So the emotional factor. Whenever we deal with digital channel, except for the video chat, so if we focus on social media, online reviews, messaging, and live chat, when we have a conversation with the customer, we don't have what we're using now, the voice. We don't have the sound, and so we cannot able to interpret the how the customer is behaving. So is he nervous? Is he worried? Is he just using some humor? So the misunderstanding over digital channels, it's risky, and it may happen every day, and it may also ruin the whole experience. That's why one of the key digital skills, conversational skills that agents and customer service people, including managers, need to develop is customer sentiment detection. So being able, without hearing customer's voice, without hearing your colleague's voice, detect not just what the other people is asking, what's the issue, what's the technical aspect, but how he or she is feeling at the moment. What are his or her emotional expectations? That makes a difference in terms of efficiency, and also in terms of making the best in terms of number and quality of conversations. So the only part that I would just change, Piero, is that right away is not the word. Right away is not the word, because whenever you need habits, behaviors, and introduce new skills, I just wrote an article this morning about it. You need people to understand that they need to make an effort to change their habits. And of course, we as humans, we have resistance to change, even though we're convinced from a rational standpoint. So it takes time to convey, then to apply, then to practice, to digest, and also to introduce these new skills and becoming the new DNA. So I tell you that, Pierre, and all the others, not just because I want to be, of course, negative, but all the shortcuts, all the approaches, the traditional approaches in terms of training to say, okay, we've done 1 or 2 days and we're gone, we're done, doesn't work, because we're talking about upskilling, introducing new skill, changing and consolidating. So it takes commitment, it takes time, but it does pay off 100%. So thanks also for the question, and thank you also, Sylvia, for reading the question, because I got some buttons that cover sometimes. But I'm very happy that this is a conversation going. So as we ask our attendees, Sylvia, people are chiming in, and Daniela also has just come in. Welcome, Daniela, with a new question, which is, what is your opinion on how to manage customer engagement on social channels? Oh, that's a good question. So I want to say that until a few years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, social media, we used to call social customer service, because focusing about digital customer service, social media used to play a bigger role compared today. But now, from the pandemic on, we observe in many markets and in many industries the rise of messaging channels. So WhatsApp overall, or like Facebook Messenger, are the dominant digital customer service channels, even though still many companies use also Facebook public Facebook or Instagram to deliver support. My opinion is that just like the online reviews, just like Google My Business or Trustpilot, the online review platforms, you need to take care of each incoming public question. So whenever is sending you or asking you for an information over a public channel, such as social media or online reviews, is like owning a physical brick and mortar shop and having somebody attaching, some notes on your wall, on your windows. And if you just let these statements without any response, you implicitly say that you're right, that they're right, or that you're not able to prepare a good, different question to say, oh, you're not wrong, you're stating something that's not true. So the number one rule for social channels is always respond. Whether it's congratulations for your job, you're very supportive, you're very effective, you solve any kind of problem, you're proactive, or whether it's about something that's negative, that's critic, or customers being provocative, you need to publicly answer. And it's more important to provide information even to the public rather than the direct people, when of course when it comes to deep dive into the problem, you need to move that kind of public conversations towards a messaging channel such as Facebook Messenger, to get their personal details, to get their policy number, I come from the insurance and environment, to get their bank account number in order to check their position, and to try to understand if there is an issue and how can you solve it, of course, in a different environment. That's lovely. That's great. So I think that we're having a very spicy conversation, and everything but theoretical. I like that the incoming questions are pretty straight to the point, pretty organizational and pragmatical. So I think that Daniele and also Piero have introduced what I just also introduced partially. So what kind of skills the customer service team, the frontline team, those people that we tend also today to call as agents, but agents is is reductive. So I want to talk about digital customer assistants. So people who are highly skilled to make the most and to leverage every single digital conversations based on the channel peculiarity, right? So I just we would need maybe 1 hour to deep dive into the desire to the main skills, but I want to just focus on 7 traits because are pretty different compared to the traditional skills that are still necessary to deal with the customers over phone or email. So let me just mention them because they are pretty interesting. So first of all, what we just mentioned earlier, make sure that your frontline team knows exactly the difference between a live chat or a messaging app or a social media. Otherwise, they're going to repeat or reproduce the same approach they used to start with the first digital channels. And I still today see many companies who struggle to handle WhatsApp messages in a different way compared to the live chat channels, because many frontline agents still reproduce the live chat fast and furious responses, which are good over live chat, but are bad over asynchronous channels. And it's not the best way to educate the customer to provide real-time responses in a channel, just like WhatsApp, which is not a real-time conversational one. Detecting customer sentiment, that's something that, back to Piero's question, needs a lot of exercise, a lot of training, a lot of practice. I came back from a couple of weeks back where we did a lot of work with a client company in 3 consecutive training sessions when we worked a lot simulating conversations, digital conversations with the end customers. And the first exercise that I did them do was detecting customer sentiment from the incoming digital channel, of course, without having words and having explicit customers. And that's important because When you're able to detect customer sentiment, it doesn't mean that you need to say you're always right. The customer is not always right, okay? But when you understand what the customer is feeling at the moment, his or her mood or sentiment, you're able to adapt the content of your responses, letting the customer know that you really understand what he or she is feeling now, regardless of the yes or no you're providing. Writing clearly and concisely clearly means using less words you used to use over emails to express the same concept in the same clear way. And when it means, and when it comes about being concise, I know this is a very hard effort from an Italian standpoint, because we usually write a lot, but we need to remember that 90% of digital conversations, the customer rights or interactions rights start from our smartphone. So when the customer reads our answers, they're going to read in a smartphone. So even 2 lines in an email would generate a drop down, a scroll down, which is something that anybody want to avoid. So we need to, of course, train people to express the same clear, essential concept using less words. Using, of course, emotional intelligence. So being able to not reactive in a aggressive way. So our customer service people need to not to take any critic or attack on personally, okay? And taking also the time to take a breath and being able to focus on the thing, on the factual thing, on the issue, on the solution, if we're able to provide an instant solution, and avoid any sort of friction that would only generate tension, that generate, of course, redundant and very tension extra interactions that make the same conversation twice or thrice as long, with a lot of draining and emotional draining. I used to be a call center agent, I still remember 20 years ago that some conversations, very tension conversations, used to drain my very best emotional energies. And after you being drained, you're not focused on the 2 or 3 next conversations, and you may risk to make very silly mistakes because you're not concentrating on the next customers. You're still thinking about that terrible conversation or terrible customer. So it's developing emotional intelligence. It's also very helping for time management and internal communication in between departments. Acting proactively means just like playing chess. If you like playing chess, you know that before moving, you go the king, the queen, or other parts of the chess. You need to think, of course, about the next move. So the other person, what is going to do if I move in this direction? So need to, of course, think twice before taking a position and saying and ask yourself, if I'm pretty confident that after providing this response, the customer 90% of the times ask me the same questions, I can add an extra information in my question, preventing the next questions, and of course generating something that's really welcomed, reducing the number of interactions, which is really well welcomed, both from a customer standpoint and from agents standpoint. So both experiences, the customers and the agents, improve. Making the most of every conversations we already mentioned, it's the sum of the previous points. I just don't want to underrate it, but I don't want to repeat it. I just want to focus in these last few minutes on the selling the service, which is something that's culturally different. I'm a customer service man. I used to be customer service managers for many years in different companies. Now I'm a consultant, still focused on digital customer service, but most of the times customer service was intended as an area where all the claims, all the issues, all the frictions need to be dealt, and just other departments, sales and marketing, had the goal to generate sales. But that's not true. Today, a change in customer culture in many companies is leveraging a third pillar, which is customer service, as a commercial assist generator. So whenever we provide great experiences over digital channels, digital conversations or self-service conversation, self-service information with knowledge base, okay, the customer is in the best positions to receive, read, and consider all our commercial and marketing materials and contents. If we provide a negative one, you can prepare the best marketing campaigns, the best product, the best discount, but you will sell it to a disappointed customer. If you're a disappointed customer, you don't buy. If you're happy, you want to buy more. So selling the service to the customer, it doesn't mean at the end of a conversation, hey, I remember we got 30% off to our car insurance policy. No, that's not forcing, pushing a sale. It's not just responding, it's responding, valuing the plus of the service. Just to make an example, I remember I used to work for a client company which, craft beautiful watches, okay? And after repairing the watches, they just used to send a simple email stating, "Dear sir, we've completed our repairing. We're going to deliver and to send your watch back," without mentioning that all the repairings were guaranteed for their lifetime. That's the extra value. And then we decided to say, okay, whenever we complete the repairings, we not just inform the customer we're going to deliver the watch back, but we want to emphasize that all repairings we make are guaranteed through the lifetime. That's valuing the services. That's letting know that the differences from a customer standpoint from that company to competitors. Okay, and that's why if we got some people in our customer service that have already gained a commercial, a marketing, or sales experience, that's a plus. Okay, we can teach them customer service, but we can learn from them how to valorize our conversations, our service. All right, Silvia. So I think that's we just introduced the customer culture concept. So whenever you want to jump in, feel free, of course, Silvia. You're always welcome. I want to just talk about customer culture because that's something I would call the missing mile still today for many companies. And that's where, the customer realizes if they found the right spot, or maybe they want to consider switching onto a competitor in the future. So I just provide here an example where, a simple negative questions can be proposed in different ways. But when we reply, it's impossible, we can help you because it's our policy. It's our sort of codes, internal codes and procedures. We provide a wall in front of a customer. This is not a negative information. That's something that's, opposite. And we provide a bottleneck. And from my experience as consultant, the bottlenecks come from internal processes. And where internal processes are, okay, the internal communications between the customer service department and other departments. So whenever the customer asks for an information and we need to get approval, information, data from other departments, and we need to wait a lot of time for information, or we got negative information. So whenever the procedures and also the internal communications are not customer oriented, but just the front line, just the customer service is oriented, we got some issues. So that's why one of the important things that many companies have started to do is to bring and to spread customer culture beyond the customer service department boundaries. Because even though you got maybe people in finance or IT that they don't have conversations with the end customers every day, they need to become customer centric. They need to consider when introducing or changing their procedures and guidelines to see what are the final effect to the end customer when have a conversations over WhatsApp, or when he's trying to make a quote on our e-commerce website portal. Are we improving? Are we making their lives easier? Are we introducing some changes that are rational and good for us, but are worsening customers' experience? So that's why customer culture is something that cannot be just won by one department, because 90% of the time, the conversations I have with client companies, I see that customer culture is strong within customer service and customer care departments. But whenever you cross the boundary to another country, which is called IT, which is marketing, which is sales, finance, or whatever, it seems you're changing company. And that does reflect with the end customer whenever the front line, the customer service department, needs to take information or get approval from other departments. So that's what makes friction and also alternate ups and downs that nobody wants to have. Right.
On that, Paolo, quick question. So I think everyone is well, it was brilliantly explained, the importance of customer culture. However, there seem to be still some obstacles in some industries and some organizations. So how would you recommend overcoming them? Because yes, overcoming silos is a mantra, but what would be your recommendation?
Yeah, the first one is something that maybe somebody won't like. So the only way to change culture and to say everybody needs to be customer centric is something that starts from the very top. So from the top management. If the top management is not convinced that every single department need to be customer centric, and being customer centric in every new decision, new procedure, any kind of effort will have maybe short-term results, but in the long run, it's not going to work. It's not going to change effectively. So I would say that the prerequisite is having a mature and a culturally evolved top management. Then if we got the top management buy-in, then of course we usually got internal ambassadors, or somebody I create internal ambassadors from my consulting standpoint. So I work with a manager, most of the times is the customer service manager or director, that also have of course, he's entitled or she's entitled to, spread the word, the word, and spread customer culture, involving and engaging managers throughout the company. And of course, it's something that takes time, but it also constant meetings, exchanging, delivering results, maybe small baby steps that, of course, let people understand that if they change habits, if they change their culture, they got also some benefits from the third party department's standpoint. Otherwise, it seems just a struggle. It seems just an effort. And of course, creating internal ambassadors of customer culture in each department help the work of the main manager, the customer service manager or the customer experience managers, that of course starts from a strong customer culture and need, of course, to create and build alliances with other managers. These are programs that take months, sometimes very few years, maybe a couple of years. But if we start from a buy-in from the top management, and the main manager is entitled to engage, involve, and work proactively in a very hands-on approach, it pays off. The only thing that I want to add, just Silvia, is that until a few years ago, customer culture was considered as something not important. But now, and I would say also today, as we're living in the AI starting era, if we just introduce technology, especially AI, but we don't let tools or AI align with an evolving customer culture, something's not balanced. And that's not very good in terms of experiences, in terms of people's motivation, in terms of business results. I hope I delivered, crafted.
I can't agree more.
Yes. And that's not an easy job, Sylvia. Definitely, that's not an easy job. So if I would say it's easy, if quick and easy, I would be okay. I wouldn't be honest. So as we're getting close to the very end, and I'm looking forward maybe to respond maybe to one very last question, I just want to, yeah, just to focus on how the important is when things go well, when you get your internal communication and you improve customer culture throughout the organization, through any department, you know that from a customer standpoint, even if the customer service team need to get information or to deal with other departments, it doesn't take weeks to get a response. All the responses are clear, all the responses are effective. We receive proactive updates instead of having to say, hey, is still anybody there? Have you got news for us? Okay, you see that there is an alignment in terms of processes, an alignment in terms of different channels. And one of the signals of good customer culture is that whenever you have conversations with brick and mortar people or phone conversations or digital channels, you have the same level of professionalism, the very same level of people listening carefully to what you're saying or what you're reading, the same tendency to be proactive, to be helpful, to be pragmatic, regardless the department, regardless the conversational channel. That's of course one of the big results. And what works inside or is not working very well inside a body or an organization reflects externally. And customers, even though they're not okay aware of how a company, a bank, an insurance company, or other manufacturer is organized, they realize if the experiences are consistent or not. Great. So as we move towards the end of the of this conversation, and I love the smile, I want just to focus on the power of digital conversation, which is also the title of my latest book, because we need to empower every single digital conversations with our organizations, within our company. So I suggest you 3 steps, 3 areas, let's say 3 areas you need to make sure that you're doing your homework to improve in every area. So first of all, make sure that your frontline customer service team has been upskilled specifically on digital channels based on the peculiarities of each digital channel, customers' expectations, and of course, technical peculiarities of the channels on a regular basis. I've added on a regular basis because, we're talking about upskilling people. It's not just about making one training today and the next in a couple, 2 or 3 years. That doesn't work anymore. So on a regular basis means you need to find money, you need to invest more, you need to be more convincing with your directors, you need more money to introduce upskilling on a regular basis, because channels are changing, customers' expectations are getting higher and higher. So we cannot rely on the same frequency, the same type of training, and the same level investments. Otherwise, we'll try to drive in Formula One with a very old 50-year car. Then, of course, talking about digital channels, we need to constantly, on a regular basis, also do another kind of homeworks, review and update our internal processes, guidelines, and KPIs, and create specific KPIs on digital channels who are linked to our goals. We may have a customer service goal, we may have also an overall company goal, but we need to make sure that these KPIs are reasonable compared to the channel, to the expectations, and also our goals. So we cannot have the same KPIs that we use for the phone for customer service applied to WhatsApp. So that's something that still I see today, but it's something that's not, providing insightful feedbacks, because they're not, we're missing the right point. And of course, something that's going to be very more and more important in the next months, I wouldn't say years, I would say months, is to leverage AI as a tool. So my suggestion is don't mix up the tool with the goal. Okay, don't think about AI as a goal. think as a very helpful tool to make customers' life easier, but also to make customer service people easier. So those who have conversations with the customers. In fact, I see some companies that are integrating, some specific use of generative AI to help to create responses, suggestions popping up on the customer service agents while having a conversation with the customer over different channels, or producing recap of the phone call of the email conversations. So letting customer service agents saving time and effort, and of course being able to be to open up and use different colors. Okay, so I need to just want to conclude to leave you, of course, the details of my book so that you can feel free to get your copy, or make a present to your colleague, or to your boss. Of course, you can find it in all Amazon stores. So the power of digital conversations. And as we're getting towards the very 2 or 3 minutes of these great conversations, I want to leave you also the contacts where you can get in touch with me and have an informal conversations, or let me know what's your next challenge. But now, as we're getting very close, I want to pass the mic to Sylvia for this conclusion of this spicy and very happy conversation from my standpoint.
Thank you very much, Paolo. That was very insightful, and I think we have seen a lot of great questions. So really to summarize, right, trying to summarize what you have just shared with us. So it all starts with the understanding of the need and the context of customer centricity. Organizations need to identify channels and the required skills to support their customer service teams. And honestly, to be very streamlined, I think, as a final conclusion, when I got you correctly, it can be said that no successful digital conversation without cultural change and transformation.
100%, 100%, Sylvia.
Thank you. So I'm just checking the time. So maybe we've got time for one last question, Paolo, which would, well, you raised AI, and I know that also a lot of our customers are always asking the question, how can you reply to the potential risks and ethical considerations associated with using AI, especially in the very sensitive digital customer service?
Well, of course, this is a question that would need maybe 15 minutes, but I will just want to focus on one part of the question in terms from an organizational standpoint. So if we focus on customer service, I see many managers and directors, customer service managers and directors that need to re-engineer their whole structure. So who's doing what? Who's going to change some of the tasks? What tasks shall we assign to Gen AI? What other tasks can we do instead, or learn instead, or create in terms of tasks? So this is something that affects the whole organization, not just in terms of numbers, I would say, but in terms of how managers, supervisors, frontline need to rearrange their tasks, and how all the managers need to integrate data and reportings. So this is the very challenging that I think we're going to understand more in terms of results after in the next, I would say, 10, 12 months, because I see many organizations and many customer service departments that are under construction. So they're rearranging and they're thinking about how to carefully introducing AI.
Got it. Thank you so much. So in matter of time, we are almost at the top of the hour. Paolo, once again, on behalf of the ECXO, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. Thanks to everyone who joined today, this live session. If you have any further questions, as said, we are at the top of the hour. Maybe you want to just share them in our LinkedIn channel. And also get in contact with Paolo, get in contact with us if you're having questions or some comments and some ideas. And so we hope to see you soon again, and have a wonderful rest of your day. And as said, take care and see you soon, hopefully.
Bye-bye, everybody. Have great conversations.
Ciao and bye-bye.
Ciao.